Principle number 3. There are only 6 income-producing activities in the real estate business. And here they are. Now, for some of you, there's a 7th that we'll talk about in a moment. But here's the 6th. And for those of you who are not in real estate sales, this also applies to mortgage origination, insurance sales and brokerage, financial services. You can just change the terminology up a little bit, right? So the first is lead generation and prospecting. It is by far the most important activity that we do in this business is lead generation, right? What does lead generation really mean? What does that mean? Prospecting. It means we're talking to people about what we do and asking them for business and referrals. Matter of fact, I'll give you a little principle that we work with, a little rule with the clients that we work with. If you're lead generating and talking with people on the phone or face-to-face, if you don't ask a closing question, it does not count as a contact. A closing question means what? Asking them for business, or asking them for referrals, or asking them for something that's going to lead to a result, right? Because a lot of us will call people and we'll talk with them on the phone all day long, and we'll never ask them how we can serve them or how they can help us. We'll just keep talking. And then we'll say, oh, I lead generated today. That was great. Next. Goodbye. So that one little shift in thinking as it relates to your lead generation. Okay, make sure that whenever you're talking with somebody, you're going to ask them a closing. The closing question could be, is it okay if I call you again next week? Even. As long as you're asking a closing question. Next is lead follow-up. So we're lead generating and prospecting, right? Next is we have to follow up on those leads. 48% of all sales professionals never follow up on a lead. That's good news for you. That means half of the agents never even follow up on a lead. Wow. So we have to follow up on it. Next is going on listing appointments and taking listings. Pay very close attention to what I'm about to say, right? Going on listing appointments and taking listings that are priced to sell. That are priced to sell. The second kiss of death in this business is taking overpriced listings. Because you will lose money every single time. I'm going to prove that to you in a moment. So, going on listing appointments, taking listings that are priced to sell. Why priced to sell?
So they sell.
So they sell. And what happens if you don't price them to sell? Takes more time. What else? Energy, money. And when it doesn't sell, guess what? It's your fault. It's your fault when it doesn't sell. Even if you brought the CMA initially and showed the sale of the home's worth $250 and they want to list it at $3 1/4. Because they're going to say, I can prove to you it's worth $3 1/4. My brother-in-law said so. And by the way, I have my tax bill right here, and the assessor says it's worth $3 1/4. And you know something? The house down the street sold 18 months ago for $290, and my house is much nicer than theirs. If we take that listing, we are going to lose money, time, and reputation. Well, what if I'm going to get sign calls? Listen, for every listing that you take that you don't sell, you have to sell 3 more properties to get the profitability. Never forget what I just said. For every listing you take that does not sell, you have to sell 3 more to get the profitability. It's a 3-to-1 rule that applies to every business. I'm going to show that to you in a minute. You take a listing that does not sell, you have to sell 3 more to get the profitability, because you have to make up the loss, first of all, on the one that you just were involved in. And then you have to make money on the transaction that you're currently working on in order for you to be profitable. You've got to do 3. Next is showing appointments with qualified buyers only. Right? You don't have to beat that dead horse to death. We know why it's qualified buyers only. The next is negotiating contracts. Now, I don't like to use the word contract even though I'm a lawyer. Because when we use the word contract with a buyer or a seller, what are they thinking? I better go see a lawyer, right? So I like to use the word paperwork or agreement. we use the word paperwork or agreement, it puts you on the same side of the table as your client or prospective client. And then the next is price improvements. We don't call them price reductions, right? Because if we ask a seller for a price reduction, what are they thinking?
Losing money.
Yeah, you're taking something away from me. And again, it's your fault. So we're going to ask them for price improvements. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, let's improve the price of your home so we can get more qualified buyers and other agents looking at the property. Just try that over the next couple of weeks. Use the term price improvement rather than price reduction, and you will see a remarkable difference on how people respond to you. Now, for some of you, there's a seventh, and that is recruiting other agents onto your team or into your organization, right? So you would also dedicate some time for that. Or for most people, it's these 6. Now, there's a direct correlation between how much time you commit to these 6 activities to how much money you make. On average, nationwide, what percentage of an agent's time do you think goes into those 6 activities on a daily basis? Who said 10? Pretty close. It's between 10 and 15%. So if 10 to 15% of our time is going into those 6 activities, where's the other 85% going? Dry cleaners, yeah. It's going to freedom and flexibility, right? Where else is it going? Non-revenue producing activities, such as standing around the water cooler and talking about the game last night, reading the newspaper, being on the internet, Facebooking, all this other stuff that we can pretend are business activities and really are not. So, if 15% of your time is currently committed to these 6 activities, if you can go from 15% to 30%, you will double your income. If you will go from 15% to 45%, you will triple your income. There's a direct one-to-one correlation between how much time we're spending or investing in these 6 activities and what our income is. There really are no others. Now, we say here, 80% of your time should be dedicated to these activities. Honestly, if you can get to 60% of your time in these 6 activities, you will be the #1 producer in your office, without a doubt. You will be #1. No one will even come close to you if you can get to 60%. Very few people, including myself, get to 80%. There are a few people who can get to that point.